Welcome to the Legends Behind the Craft podcast, where we feature top leaders in the wine and craft beverage industry with your host, Drew Hendricks. Now, let's get started with the show.
Today, I've got a special treat for you. As part of doing the podcast, Legends Behind the Craft, I get to interview some of the most intriguing producers and importers of wines and spirits. And today, we've got a special virtual tasting. I think you're going to enjoy it. Hi, Simonetta. How are you doing today?
Fine. And you?
Very good. Very good. So we're talking to you live from Piedmont.
And I have the baby. How are you doing? So this is Chiara. She's the owner of the wine. She's the new generation.
Oh, yes. Nice to meet you.
Più o meno. She speaks very little English, but I think that just, little introductions of yourself, maybe she can understand. I will handle everything, by the way.
Oh, yes. My name's Drew Hendricks, and I run a podcast called Legends Behind the Craft, where I interview leaders in the wine industry.
Ok, Drew è il suo nome e lui praticamente fa questo podcast che si chiama Legend Behind Whatever, I already forgot, e dove parla appunto, fa delle interviste, parla di realtà come la tua oppure di alternative che sono sempre attorno al mondo del vino.
Ok.
So we prepared the wine to taste together. We have two vintages. One is the one that you have in front of yourself, and the other is the new vintage, the 2020. If you want, I can just show you this place where we are. This is not the real winery where they are producing the wine, but this is the place where they entertain people and do run some tasting.
Oh, that would be great.
Okay, so how do you want to proceed with this podcast?
Why don't you give us a little background on the Erbaluce de Caluso? Because it's a great variety that most people aren't very familiar with.
Absolutely. This is what we are going to do. Are you already recording or you need to start?
Yes.
Okay.
We are live.
Amazing. We are ready. So let's start introducing the Erbaluce di Caluso. Yeah. Erbaluce is actually the name of the grape, but also the name of the denomination, so of the wine. And there is a very nice and funny story that tells that the Erbaluce was actually something created by a god that was so beautiful, was called Albaluce. Alba is sunrise and luce is light. Wow. And she was the daughter of the sun and the moon. So it's a very representative story of how people are feeling in this land about the importance and the beauty of the Erbaluce itself. So she was living in this amazing area called the Canavese, where everybody was so happy and they were living like, just with animals, growing up vegetables, so providing by themselves everything. But due to the queen, whose name was Yipa, that she was just very money oriented, and she wanted that the people just produces a lot more. So she wanted them to dig into the soil to have more water coming on to produce more vegetables and more items. But digging after digging, it happens of the flooding, and all the area was flooded, and all the people just fall down in the poverty. They didn't have nothing anymore to eat or to drink. So this Albaluce, since she was really sad for the people she was living with, she started to cry, and from her tear grew up this amazing plant of the Erbaluce that started to grow up and give back to the people again something to eat and to sell, so something that was enable them to recreate the life. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, what a wonderful story.
Okay, so returning back to the reality. Okay, so Erbaluce is an autochthonous grape varietal. It's available only here in the Canavese. Canavese land, it's a real small teeny area, north side of Torino in the Piedmont region. Let me say about 20 minutes by car from Torino in the north direction, in the Canavese, where we have a lot of hills all around us. We have a lot of lakes. So in terms of terroir, the situation is very, very special and specific. All the territory was built by the melting down of the glacier. So we're talking about thousands of years ago, but every time you live in the morenic island places, the terroir is very specific. So all the freshness due to the soil type, but also to the weather and the difference between the day and the night, the humidity, or the wind that comes down from the hill and the mountains, is at the end of the story reflecting inside the grape, so into the wine. You will feel something very fresh with a lot of minerality. And due to the high level of acidity, the Erbaluce is fantastic for more than one type of wine. So I want to show you what in general the winemaker are producing. Here we have the Metodo Classico, that is the traditional method. So the Champenoise is exactly the same as the Champagne, but Champagne is in France. So in Italy, we call it Metodo Classico.
Is that the same? Is that a spumante? That's not from the spumante area.
Actually, spumante stands for sparkling in general.
Okay. So,
but when we talk about sparkling in Italy, we have two different methods of vinification. We have what is recognized as the Charmat, that actually is the Metodo Martinotti in Italian, because Martinotti was the name of the Italian guy who created this special kind of system. And then we have the Metodo Classico, that is the Champenoise.
Okay.
But when you speak with an Italian, we prefer to use Charmat, Martinotti, or Metodo Classico. Sparkling is really too much generic for us. Okay, so this is the Metodo Classico. Then we have the classical style, so the one that you have, and we are going to taste. So voy a aprirlo così lo apriamo. And then we have something amazing. This is exactly. Are you familiar with the Passito?
Not the Erbaluce Passito, but I've had many from Piedmont more in the red varietals.
Where, sorry?
I've had a few Passitos in the past.
Coming from where? South of Italy, probably.
No, up north in Piedmont. I forget the producer.
Okay, never mind. So the Passito is made by hanging up each grape on a special place and leaving the grapes to deshydrate for like 5 to 6 months. After, they have to collect back again the Erbaluce grapes that at that point is going to have just the 50% of water is expired, and what is lasting is just the sugar contained in it. They are going to press these grapes, and in this case, Massoglia is leaving what's going to be the wine on barrel, oak barrel, for 5 years.
Wow.
After 5 years, the Passito is moved inside the bottle itself, and for another year is going to just rest and lie down. And after 6 years, the bottles are ready to be sold. So you can imagine the percentage, starting from 100 kilograms of grape, what they can produce probably is just 12 bottles or something like that.
Oh, amazing.
But the difference between like a Passito coming from the south of Italy or the Passito coming from the Erbaluce, it's something sweet, but not sticky and still fresh because of the acidity.
Oh, yes.
So let's start with the Erbaluce. We are going to taste this one. Grazie, Chiara.
So I've got the 2019 here.
Exactly. So the 2019 was a vintage with a decent amount of grapes because of regular weather. But at the end of the story, the sugar was not so high. So we can feel more acidity compared to the 2020.
Yeah.
So the taste
fruit.
is very fruit, but it's very refreshing and very delicate fruit.
Very bright. It's very warm here today, and the smell is very,
it's
very
perfect.
refreshing.
Lui è in California, quindi dice che è molto caldo, quindi è rinfrescante. Come descriveresti tu il profumo di questo vino?
Wonderful acidity.
I'm asking her directly what she feels about the nose, so I can translate to you.
Oh, great.
Camomilla, pesca.
She said herbal, like the chamomilla herbal.
As soon as she said that, I got that nose. Yes, there is that floral.
Some white peaches also.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, you get some mineral.
It's very light and very warm, Probably compared to the 2020, this is lighter. Credo che il 2020 sia più intenso di profumi. Sì. And this is due to the fact that in 2020, they had a very small amount of grapes. So everything was more concentrated,
Very bright. There's a little bit of a mineral note, but definitely.
Already in the nose. Lui dice si incomincia a sentire la mineralità anche nel naso.
Mm.
I wanted you to describe the Erbaluce for us.
Yeah, so now I'm just smelling the chamomile and peaches, but no, but it's a really bright light fruit, and it does tend more towards that kind of peach. There's a hint of I do get a hint of like a lemon peel on the nose.
Absolutely. Dice che comunque sente come dire, il limone, quindi la freschezza, l'acidità. So the taste is really more toward lemon.
Mm-hmm. And it has that really just bracing acidity that I love. You do that with food, it's just wonderful. There's nothing it's very tight and bright is the way I feel. And it has a very nice kind of clean finish that kind of lingers, and the minerals come out once it kind of leaves the palate.
Dice che comunque quando fa muovere il vino ha questo taglio molto netto a livello di freschezza, quindi si apre nella mineralità e comunque molto armonico e molto piacevole. Drew, I consider this wine not for everybody, So people who are used to drink very sweet wines, probably they have some trouble in adjusting themselves. But if you are looking something fresh, different, clear for very hot weather, or like fish dishes, even oysters. A little sad. Oysters is perfect.
I'm going to go order some oysters tonight.
Dice che adesso faccio sposti delle ostriche per stasera.
Avevo capito.
But, also salmon, in US, salmon is it's available everywhere, and salmon, it's very fatty. So level of minerality and acidity is just helping you to refresh your mouth from this fatty. I think it's just perfect.
This is a wine that even if you you were a white wine drinker and you really just loved your buttery Chardonnays, then you served it to them without any food, they probably wouldn't like it. But if you served it with the salmon or with an oyster, they would have a newfound appreciation for this wine, because it would match so well.
In one of my last wine tasting that I ran with regular people, I prepared some small bites with, like toasted bread, spread it with some butter and a little pieces of salmon, not cooked salmon, and very, very fresh. Oh. And I told to my guests to drink the Erbaluce first, then to eat this bite of salmon and butter, and to drink again the Erbaluce. So the first Erbaluce was having the effect of, it's very refreshing. But after this salmon and butter, they just say, oh gosh, this is the perfect combination.
Yeah, I can see how it just livens the palate. It's very, very interesting and refreshing. Like it's really exciting. That it excites my palate.
Consider that the total amount of Erbaluce bottles produced in the area, I think, is really below 1 million bottles, but considering all the producers and all the types. So Metodo Classico, the classical, traditional vinifications, and the passito. The area where the Erbaluce can be produced, it's credo un diametro di 30 chilometri l'area dell'Erbaluce. It counts of 14 small villages. Oh. So 14 small villages in terms of miles, it's like a diameters of 18 miles. So in between this area, who is growing up Erbaluce grapes can produce Erbaluce DOCG. And since you are aware of the Italian appellation, this is a DOCG. So you can see the sticker that we need to apply on each bottles. And each sticker is counted. So every time we deal with DOCG in Italy, it means that the producer is really under control from the proper authorities in the vineyard and in the vinification process. Like from the low point standpoint, the Erbaluce, a vineyard made of Erbaluce can create a specific amount of grapes. So the producer can only use that specific amount of grape for the production of the wine. Sure. And it's math calculations. So specific amount of grapes in terms of kilograms or hectoliters and number of bottles. If they have more, they have to declass the wine from a DOCG to a table wine because they will have only that number of stickers to apply to the bottles.
Oh, so the lesser fruit just gets sold away or declassified.
Exactly. So let's say that Chiara owns a vineyard and able to produce, like, I'm just saying one number, okay, 1,000 bottles. She's going to have from the authority 1,000 sticker to apply to the DOCG production. If she is having a very beautiful vintage and she is potentially able to produce 2,000, she can only sell 1,000 as a DOCG and the other 1,000 is going to be table wine.
That's very interesting. I guess I had never realized that you.
Yeah, it's very complicated.
So it's not so much that you, because I was going to ask how the planting of the Erbaluce and the different DOCGs, other grape varieties can be planted there, whereas only Erbaluce in those vineyards.
Oh, in Canavese area where we are, the local denomination are Erbaluce DOCG, that is the most important. Then we have Rosso Canavese, that is a red blend made of Barbera, and Bonarda. Bonarda is what is called Grenache most of the time. Then we have the Nebbiolo DOCG, Nebbiolo Canavese. Quale altra denominazione? Barbera del Canavese. So they can really plant other kind of varietals, but if they want to have a denomination, they can use only one of those.
Okay. Now, have the plantings?
12 anni fa.
Sorry, Drew?
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I just asked her when the DOCG was granted from the government. So the DOCG was officially defined 12 years ago. So it's a kind of new DOCG.
Kind of new. Has the plantings increased over the last 12 years since now it's a DOCG?
It's because a lot of young producers like Chiara. So in Chiara's family, whose name is Massoglia, like the label, I think she's the third or the fourth generation, to say la quarta generation, the fourth generation. So everything started from the great-grandparents, and it's what was happening in my family. I just decided to give up. But anyway, nowadays there are a lot of young producers that decided to keep going with what was very normal in this area. But the area is still the same. Let me ask her how many Erbaluce producers they are nowadays. Quanti siete produttori di Erbaluce?
32, 33.
Okay, 32 or 33 producers.
Wow.
So nothing.
Very small.
Really nothing.
How
Exactly.
was that compared to maybe 12 years ago before the DOCG?
I think at that time we were talking about like 20, maybe 25. Or on the other hand, in all the families, they were producing wines, but just for the family and not for the business.
I see. So they had the vines planted, and then did they replace some of the other varietals? Because there's only so many vineyards.
No. They were, and they are just still keep going with this kind of varietal.
Same tradition.
We are in Piemonte, in the land of the red wines, and so just to name one, Barolo, or Barbaresco, or Nebbiolo, or Dolcetto. But actually, here where we are, this is the land of the white wine in Piedmont.
Okay.
So this is the most popular and the most important. It's not actually very well recognized, neither in Italy. So I think it's just like 5 to 10 years that the Erbaluce is starting to become a recognized wine also in other places. But it's still something very difficult to find in many places. She was telling me that she was very lucky and happy to find a very beautiful customer in Sicily. Oh. And she is buying so many cases of Erbaluce. So imagine that this is the Italian map. If you flip the Italian map in two, the Piedmont is touching the Sicily. So we are exactly at the opposite. With a very hot weather, it's like to south of California to, I don't know, New Jersey or those places.
Or even up in Washington on the coast.
Exactly. So, but it's very difficult to find a situation like this. And she's very good in promoting.
Yeah. So ask her, as a fourth generation winemaker, how has the winemaking changed? Or how are the new winemakers? Have they changed anything? Has it evolved?
Ti sta chiedendo come le tecniche di produzione sono evolute dalle prime generazioni ad oggi, quindi nei passaggi se c'è stato un miglioramento, quali sono le differenze maggiori dalle produzioni che faceva il nonno alla tua?
Tantissime. Siamo passati da dei torchi manuali a dei torchi pneumatici come l'ultimo che abbiamo comprato, alla temperatura controllata all'interno delle vasche, al passito che prima veniva lasciato lì solo fino a dicembre, adesso tendiamo a lasciarlo fino a febbraio, lo spumante che non veniva fatto e che invece abbiamo deciso di farlo, è cambiato tutto.
She's saying that actually everything changed.
Everything?
Yeah, starting from everything was manual, and now beside the harvesting that is still done by hand, everything is just handled by using the technology. So one time they were pressing the grapes with the feet.
Oh yeah.
And now we have an automatic, press.
More efficient.
Exactly. Yeah. But less fun. They are using, at the very beginning of the vinification process, steel tank. But now steel tank, they have a special system inside to control the temperature. So in the first phase of that is also the most important, they are able to control and keep cold the most inside. So when you keep cold the most inside the steel tank, you are just highlighting the flavoring coming outside from the grape itself. So this was not possible. Then in general, they were leaving the wine inside the tank less amount of time than what she is doing now, because actually, today, they learn how to keep under control the acidity. The acidity, it can be a very amazing advantage, because the more acidity you have, the more life the wine can have. It's a natural preserver,
Oh, yeah.
But if you are not able to control the acidity in the proper way, it becomes very difficult. And I really have memory when I was a child, and my grandfather was giving me a little, little drops of the wine. I was just like, wow, that's horrible. It's like eating, lemon zest, because they were just producing the wine for the family. Or the pasito. So for the pasito, now they are waiting 6 years to obtain the best of the best. When we were kids and even generations before, the passito was produced in general in the year when there was a new boy born in the family.
Oh,
exactly. And the wine was kept in the cellar until the boy was getting married. And it was like the special wine at the wedding ceremony.
that's a great.
Exactly.
18, 20 years old.
We are talking about a wine that can stand in the cellar for 20, 30 or 50 years without any problem. When I got married, I mean, the grandfather of my husband, he opened up a bottles of 1966 Passito.
Oh man.
It was amazing. It was just amazing. So, and this is due not only to the vinification process, but also to the acidity of the Erbaluce, by the way.
And we're talking about the acidity, but I can see that this has a tremendous amount of fruit and mouth coating texture that makes the acidity very balanced. We're talking about it's not something that's just a big acid bomb. It's got a lot of roundness to it.
Yeah, acidity plus minerality. Those are the two things that you can really feel in this glass of wine. It's just, I mean, for me, it's really a wine that deserves some more popularity. Mm-hmm. But I know that the activities we have to do in terms of promotions, it's really long. But we have time, since we have life, we have time to do it.
Mm-hmm. Now, as far as, would you age the dry wine? Would this sit in the cellar for a few years?
It can stay a lot aging, absolutely. Mi chiede se è possibile fare un invecchiamento dell'Erbaluce. It depends also if we are having a very simple basic version or more sophisticated. So you can have like a Riserva. When you are talking about the Riserva, it can last longer in terms of aging. But as I always happen, you can have some very simple wine that need to be, drink very easily, very soon. But for me, easily 2 years, this wine can stay in the bottles.
Just rounds
the Metodo Classico is another wine that can really stay and age very, very long. Absolutely. And
when's that one released? So it would sit on the lees for a little while. How long from vintage? Is it a vintage method Classico or is it a cuvée?
This is questo è una cuvée o un vintage Metodo Classico?
È un 2018.
This is 2018. But it's a vintage, but it's exactly the same process of the champagne. Mm-hmm. So they are leaving at the beginning a little amount of time. The grapes stay in Surly for a little amount. Mm-hmm. Then they are moving in the steel tank, like for the basic version. But after 6 months, they are doing, they are moving the wine inside the bottles and corking with the regular cork for leaving the second fermentation directly inside the bottles itself. And after, cosa fa, 3 anni?
Questo è un 18 mesi, però normalmente facciamo 24-36 mesi.
And so as a normal way, they are leaving 24 to 36 months, the second fermentations in the bottles. At the very end, they are doing the classical remouage process to move the yeast.
Riddle the bottles.
Exactly, riddle and moving. And when the process is finished, they need to ask to another company because they are not equipped with the big machine, to change the cork and do the liqueur de dosage. So they are, I think, just a couple of companies in Piedmont that they are selling as a service this kind of systems. So the truck is coming in the winery and they can really remove the cork, add the special something that gives the final taste to the wine and put the final cork. Mi prendi, ce l'hai qua il
pasticcio? Il pasticcio.
No, that's the way it is in California. Okay. There's very few.
This is a secret. So keep it for yourself and not for all the people who are going to see this. In this area, we produce a Cassis Morenico. and the producer is just around the corner. Actually, Massoglia is using in the blend of the liqueur, the dosage, a little bit of the cassis.
Oh, really? Oh, that must taste wonderful.
And the other very important things is that this is dosage zero, so they are not adding any sugar on it. Mm-hmm. So it's really, it's very, very simple, very, very natural.
Oh, that's great.
And Drew, I'm sorry, you cannot drink this.
I'm gonna have to find a bottle. That sounds good.
You will love it. You will love it. Any other question? Are you curious about something?
Well, for the Erbaluce, what is your favorite, aside from salmon, what is your favorite way to consume it?
I think pairing the Erbaluce with the food is the perfect way to drink it. And the salmon, absolutely. It's also perfect with white meat. Mm-hmm. So like chicken, grilled chicken, or fresh vegetables. Absolutely.
For a traditional Piedmonte meal, what would you serve this with?
I think with vegetables or with chicken, by the way. Okay. This is not the land of fish, and this is the contraposition. I don't know why we produce a very beautiful white wine that is perfect with the fish and we don't have the fish. But anyway, this is part of the story. Chiara, tu con cosa lo abbineresti con un piatto locale?
Il risotto all'erbaluce e la trota.
See, she's very beautiful. So, do you know what the risotto is?
Oh, yes.
Okay, we do a risotto with Erbaluce.
Oh, well, that would be a good pairing.
Exactly. So we are copying in some way in the French. They are doing the risotto.
How is that made? So you've got the rice, you've got the Erbaluce with some mushrooms.
The procedure is the same procedure of the classical risotto, but at the very beginning, at the very last of the cooking phase, you add some Erbaluce in it.
Oh.
You need to toast the risotto at the beginning. So you put your rice inside your pan with a little bit of onions. Mm-hmm. Before adding the broth, time by time, you use a little bit of Erbaluce and you toast the wine with the Erbaluce. Oh. Then you start cooking, and like when the risotto is cooked, just turn up the fire, add some wine, and leave the wine just evaporate with the alcohol.
I mean, that's what I'm making tonight. That's what we have tonight.
Or she was reminding me that we don't have fish coming from the sea, but we have fish coming from the lake and from rivers. So we have a trout, T-R-O-U-T, trout, coming from the mountains. So it's perfect with trout.
I would think trout would be perfect with this.
Exactly. So your choice. Your choice. You are in California, so you can access oysters, salmon, but now you have to promise that you are going to try the risotto by yourself.
I will. I'm going to have to document that. I'll send you I may just include it on our social feed. I like cooking challenges, so I'm going to try that.
Amazing. Can I show you how the passito is, the consistency of the passito?
Yeah, I'd love
because to. The color, it's really amazing. Metti su una goccina. Grazie.
No, è perché sennò non si vede bene.
Okay, let me see if I can show you.
Oh, nice. Just a beautiful golden color.
It's a beautiful golden color, and also the density is very, very thick. So it's just amazing.
Are the grapes dried outside, or are they dried in inside?
They are dried on a special place where they just do drying of the Erbaluce, and they cannot use artificial air conditioning. It has to be dried with the natural air. And most of the time they have to open the windows during the day and close the windows during the night. And they have to remove when there is too much mold attached to the grapes, because they can keep the botrytis, that is the positive one, but they have to remove the bad ones.
Sure.
And in general, if they can arrive to have the 20% of the botrytis, is what it gives the final touch to the wine. It's very complex. The nose and taste is really complex. Wow. So imagine what you just had, but 1,000 times more intense, with some sweetness, because you have some sweetness. But after a few seconds, when you roll up your wine in your mouth, you feel the freshness and the minerality.
Oh, wonderful.
And I always suggest to do the tasting in two ways. You can keep the passito, let me say, cold. And when it's cold, you reduce the sugary feeling in your mouth. And you can pair it with some sweet. We have this that is produced locally. They are called torcetti di Agliè.
Oh, those look delicious.
Yeah, it's like, no, there is nothing that I can compare with in USA. You need to know that here in the village, there is an amazing, beautiful castle that was belonging to the royal Italian family, whose name was Savoia. Actually, in Italy, few people know that we had a royal family, and Torino was the first capital of Italy. In the village, we had these summer residents. So a lot of small shops were producing something specifically for the royal family. And this is one of the biscuits that was specifically produced for the queen and the duchess.
Oh, wow. Is that like a sweet glaze on the top?
Yeah, exactly. This is the effect of the sugar that they put on top before cooking in the oven. And those are like really buttery, a lot of butter. So if you want to pair this torcetti with this passito, the passito has to be very cold, unless you have sweet and sweet. This is my feeling. Then I will ask for her. But it's perfect when it's warm temperature, in contrast with the gorgonzola cheese,
I was thinking that.
Cheese, or the foie gras.
Oh,
so everything is very salty, very intense, very flavory, and you want to contrast.
Oh, that's great.
That's
now on the nose, are you getting more like apricot fruits versus
you have a lot of apricots, absolutely.
Peaches?
I can feel some almond also. Io sento un sacco di albicocche, ma anche delle mandorle alla fine. Honey, you feel a lot of honey, quindi hai del miele. Cos'altro possiamo sentire? Perché proprio
sembra le albicocche quelle secche.
She was saying this is the typical dried apricots smell.
Yes.
Very intense. But also the honey is very, very intense. But again, in your mouth, you have it is moving in the direction of some very intense taste of white fruit, let me say, also peaches, but very, very intense. And I would say even lemon at the very end. E io sento ancora il limone che ti esce fuori alla fine. Very lemon.
La base è sempre Erbaluce.
Exactly.
L'uva è quella.
She's saying the grape, it's always Erbaluce. So one of the main characteristics is the freshness coming from the seed side. And personally, I'm not a fan of the other kind of passito because they are very, very, very sweet. But I can drink.
Candy. Yeah. How is the how's 2022 or 2021 growing season? Are you guys harvesting it?
Stiamo parlando la 2021 stagione.
A parte le gelate tardive, per il momento bene. Dove c'è l'uva è bella, se non grandina.
This season was crazy. Was crazy because Azo store, some kind of Azo store, but especially for when the plant was blooming and at the very beginning, the weather was very hot and then it dropped down to very cold. So it was frozen. So the little gems were frozen. And this is never helped. So they will have a small amount of grapes available. And if nothing is going to happen, the small amount will have a good quality.
Okay.
Especially because when you have a little amount, the plant itself can direct all the resources to small amount of grapes. So we are expecting to have more sugar in it, so more flavoring, more taste, and less level of acidity to control.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And they're
praying
that nothing is going to happen, because nowadays, like a very bad storming.
You're not affected by the fires in Greece or those areas. I don't know how the wind pattern.
No, thanks God, we are okay with the fire, but because we had a lot of rain in the last month.
Okay.
So in the south of Italy, they didn't have any rain, and they are having huge high temperature. I don't know in Fahrenheit, but yesterday, I think some villages in Calabria or in Sicily, they had 48 Celsius degrees.
That's like
48 Celsius degrees is like 100 something of your Fahrenheit. So.
Oh yeah, no, that's very, very, very toasty. When do you typically harvest? In September or?
It depends. North of Italy, where we are, they start in general in September with the early harvesting for the Erbaluce, because they need to keep the acidity for the Metodo Classico and the Passito itself. And they just keep going with the red grapes, and they can arrive at all October. In south of Italy, in general, they start in August. But if I'm not wrong, they already started. Credo che abbiano già iniziato a vendemmiare giù.
Sì,
they already
Moscato,
started in the Moscato, especially, and the Malvasia. So what is very sugary because of the high temperature.
In Napa and Sonoma here, they've already started harvesting the Sauvignon Blanc.
Really?
It's very early.
Oh, Jesus. I've seen on the television that they are having a lot of problem with the fire, like what we are having, right?
Fortunately, it's north and east of where it is, so it's not threatening that area. They've been through the mill, but the other years, all the fires have started more in September. So we're still in that we're just very worried right now that nothing happens. Right now, we're having a big water issue where there's not enough water for the vineyards in the Russian River.
It's just crazy. The weather is crazy. We cannot control the weather, Drew, but we can drink a very beautiful wine.
But the good thing is, after the weather, you can control the fermentation now, and you're not at the mercy of the weather once it's harvested with the cooling tank. So that's
the technology is really helping in this respect. So
what's the next step for Erbaluce over the next 5 years? How do you see? Ask how do you see Erbaluce evolving over the next 5 years in this region? What are the goals?
Ti chiede quale sarà il prossimo passo e come vedi evolvere la situazione dell'Erbaluce in questa regione, quindi più produttori, più quantità, più qualità,
meno produttori e più qualità.
Interesting. Less amount of producers and more quality.
We weed out the lesser ones and boost it up.
Exactly. I think it's interesting. There's going to be like a countdown, because in this moment, everybody wants to do something. But probably when they will realize that producing is difficult, it's important, but then you need to market your wine. Mm-hmm. And if you don't market your wine properly, at the end of the story, when your cellar is full of wine and it's just going to live inside, is not helpful.
Is it ever used for blending? I know it can't be DOCG, but is there like a super Tuscan? That's probably a super Piedmontese.
Not that I know, but I'm going to ask her. Non c'è nessuno che fa dei blend con l'Erbaluce. No, absolutely. She confirmed to me.
Perché la DOCG non lo prevede.
Ma a parte della DOCG comunque non c'è nessuno che sta facendo.
Non puoi,
anche se volessero farlo così.
Lo fanno, ma poi non si chiama Erbaluce.
Ma non c'è nessuno che ha provato a fare delle cose. No. So they are really taking care about the DOCG. And they want to respect the DOCG. In Italy is very important. So it's a synonymous of quality. Mm-hmm. And also synonymous of the place. So it just brings and collect together the tradition, the culture, even the way we didn't talk about the way the Erbaluce grapes is growing up in the vineyard. You are used to see the regular system with the stick and with the grapes that is just coming from the top, The Erbaluce is grown with a system called the pergola. The pergola, you have one stick here that is smaller and another in between. And the plant is just growing up and extending herself on the other side, like having a tunnel.
Oh.
And this is the best way because the Erbaluce grapes is having is having a lot of leaves and a lot of space to expand. So it's very even romantic when you walk underneath because you see all the leaves and all the grapes are just, growing underneath. And changing the color from the green to an amazing amber color. On a place close to her vineyard, there is another producer that has done a test with the university in Torino, and they tried with the same clone of the Erbaluce to use traditional pergola system or the other way, so the way that you see all the vineyards.
Yeah.
And after 4 years, they tasted the difference in terms of vineyard and vinification, which was the best way to grow up the plant itself. And believe it or not, our ancient, without having any knowledge, any technology, nothing, they've just used the perfect way to grow up the Erbaluce.
That's fantastic. It just optimizes it for this full sun.
Yeah, having this kind of system, it enables, first of all, the air to move perfectly underneath and above, and to protect the grapes from the direct heat of the sun. So they take light, but not the direct ray that can damage the grapes.
That's brilliant.
Absolutely. So what are you going to do tonight with the Erbaluce? You're going to
it's going to start by going to the store to see what's available. But I've got risotto on my list. I've got salmon. I've got oysters. So it's going to be one of the three.
Okay. Can we join you?
You can virtually.
Okay. We can just
you have to get up early because it's going to be about 2 a.m. where you are.
Absolutely. Well, it was really a huge pleasure to talk.
This was fantastic. It's so great.
Do you have any other questions for Chiara?
No, I'm just. What are you guys having for dinner tonight?
Che cosa avrai per cena stasera?
No, io non lo so ancora.
She doesn't know. I'm gonna have what we call carne cruda. It's raw meat, like a carpaccio. This is what I'm gonna have.
Potrebbe essere un'idea.
Good idea. It's hot outside, so carpaccio is gonna be refreshing. Maybe not perfect with the Erbaluce, but maybe we are gonna drink a Barbera.
Yeah,
Barbera del Canavese. You never know.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. This is a treat.
Thank you, Drew. We appreciate your time. And
where can people find more about tell people where they can find the Erbaluce on your website?
They can Google Love to Italy. They can come in my website under the section wine. They can find all the information they need for the wine and for the producer. If they need more information, they can keep in touch with me. In this moment, as you know, I still don't have any distributor in the California area. But maybe someone can be interested in. Just keep in touch with me. My number and my email is on my website.
Sounds good.
I will be very happy to give more information to whoever wants.
Thank you so much. That was great.
Thank you, Drew. We are here available, and anytime you would like, we can run this kind of tasting.
Awesome. I'm going to take advantage of it. Thank
you
so much. You guys have a good
night. Ciao.
Thanks for listening to the Legends Behind the Craft podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.